call this the competitive comparison, and frankly, it's one of my favorite parts. See, there's little value, well, in claiming to be the best until you take on the best. So in this large field, we narrowed it down to the key players. So let's go take a look and see if the value story isn't in the details. First up, let's take on the Toyota RAV4. Now, I have to share with you, there's a prevailing attitude at Ford Motor Company that I really like, and boy, I'll tell you what, the SUV team takes it to heart. And that, of course, is that good competitors only serve to make you better. And I think that was a lot of the energy behind what drove the 08 Escape getting so much better. I think this vehicle was in the back of their heads. Now, as I look at this vehicle, and let's just be fair, Toyota has delivered in this segment, generally delivers overall, but I'm starting to see some weaknesses crop up. And as I look at this vehicle, I begin to wonder, are they starting to take their customers for granted? And there's some old thinking that remains in market that really confuses me, because in all fairness, the market's been pretty open about the fact that it not only wants a lift gate, it wants a lift glass as well. And yet Toyota's one of the two companies sticking with these swing gates. And I really wonder, are they paying attention to their customer or even listening to what they're saying? Because they not only stuck with a swing gate, they hinge it in the wrong direction, so it literally drives you towards the curb, forces you to come out from behind it in order to get to the interior. And to really crown off this old-time thinking, they've stuck with a spare tire mounted to that gate. But I gotta tell you, the second customers actually operate that, it's gotta be glaringly obvious that this isn't reacting to where I think the market wants to go. Now, safety is another area that I think continues to drive our team. We've always kind of gone elbow to elbow with Toyota. They've delivered well in this area. I can't critique that too hard. Where I think we've now leapfrogged in front of them, of course, is with our roll stability control. You know, this is a very effective program. It came to market in Expedition and Explorer, and now is on Escape, and it gives us a big dynamic advantage in terms of safety. So continue to leverage that. And then again, when I talk about Toyota taking their customers for granted, there's some things that go on here that I'd really like you to pay attention to. Toyota is very good at coming up with a low base price. It's when you actually, and where you hear complaints from it, and I get it to my radio show as well, it's when you start to option their packages up to actually come competitive in the marketplace that you watch their price start going through the roof. And it's starting to affect people's opinion about the company. I guess I would say that their practice is to stick a price low and option themselves to top of market. It's really not a great practice. And then, of course, is the issue of serviceability. You know, for the size of Toyota's presence, it's kind of shocking to learn they only have 1/3 as many dealerships as Ford does. So remember that when the customer talks about the serviceability. No, Toyota is a formidable competitor. I just wonder at this point, have they kept their eye completely on the ball? Because I think the 08 Escape really has. Okay, let's talk about the Honda CR-V. In my view, this one's fraught with a lot of compromises. We said earlier in this presentation that both Honda and Toyota really steered both their vehicles in the direction of being more of a car and a lot less of an SUV. A reminder, the 08 Escape is all about being an SUV. To that point, remind you, guess what? This thing sits on a Civic platform, so it's already car-like in its DNA. It's only available with a 4-cylinder engine, which really telegraphs even some more compromises in the form of performance and certainly capability. Case in point, guess what? If you buy the tow package, if you upgrade to that, you get up to 1,500 pounds of tow capacity. That's ironic, since that's exactly where the Escape starts without a tow package, and should you decide to upgrade to it, you get 3,500 pounds of capability with a V6 engine. Honda's also starting to get kind of well known for their willingness to compromise in the form of decontenting, and key virtues or features that customers like are subtly being removed. Let me give you an example. No power seat. I want to remind you that's available in the 08 Escape. No liftgate glass, available in the 08 Escape. No illuminated vanity mirrors, subtle detail, but I can assure you a lot of your buyers would miss them if they weren't told about them and then got home and found out they didn't have them. Now, it's always been good on a solid safety package, but I again want to go back to our roll stability control program. It's dynamic, it's one of the most sophisticated in the market. I tell you, the value story here really does punch up pretty large. Well, that, of course, brings us to the Jeep Liberty Sport 4x4, and boy, is it just loaded with Jeepness. And there was a day that was a compliment, but in this marketplace today, I gotta tell you, that's a lot more bad news than it is good. That whole crudeness that was Jeepness and the market used to like now starts to really telegraph itself into the vehicle and become glaringly apparent. Case in point, the 4x4 system actually requires the driver to engage it and can't be driven on a dry surface. What is that about? I remind you, the 08 Escape has an intelligent 4x4 system. It's a hands-off system for the driver, and of course, it can be driven in any environment. Of course, again, that crudeness, that Jeepness continues to telegraph itself into the frame and ride as well. And there was a time when that was socially acceptable, but in a marketplace that wants more refinement, more sophistication, boy, they're falling behind. I remind you, the 08 Escape has four-wheel independent suspension, and it just feels so much more refined and really more satisfying to drive and ride in. And boy, just to prove the point that it's loaded with Jeepness, guess what? Another vehicle that has stuck with its swing gate and a spare tire mounted to the back of it. Why you would want that additional weight and the awkwardness of trying to detail and keep that clean is beyond me. I just don't get it. Interestingly enough, as we look as a whole field moves better in the direction of safety, safety is not so standard on the Jeep. Case in point, doesn't even have side airbags deployed out of the seats, either one. And of course, it's optional for a side canopy airbag. I don't know, it just seems to me that's a great way to fall behind. And of course, I want to talk to you about the fact that they don't have our form of dynamic roll stability control. Again, we have the single most sophisticated system you can get, and I think it pays big dividends. Now, the other interesting point, and really illustrates how they've fallen behind, is that so many of Escape's standard features aren't even available as an option on this vehicle. So, got to tell you, they've really put themselves behind the curve. You know what, I just want to remind you of a few issues. You know, what makes this vehicle so strong and such a standout of taking the best of all these worlds and bringing it together is its true, genuine Ford SUV heritage. You can see it in the DNA on everything you touch, yet it wasn't compromised to be a bad road car in the interest of using key SUV strengths. Now, I also want to remind you, the test deltas that this vehicle had to go through, its durability was compared against that of SUVs and not cars. So the core strength and durability is definitely here. Yet, when you compare it in terms of ride and handling, top of game, and that's the stuff I love to see in overall refinement. And we've said it over and over again because it becomes so important to this marketplace. Safety is standard, and we have the extraordinary advantage of having the most sophisticated roll stability control program you can get. One last technical detail. You know that EPA has now changed its test standards. Finally, they are starting to include the aerodynamic issues by blowing air over the vehicle as well. We're pleased with that, and we will be amongst the first to actually react to that, and you'll be looking for those new standards as published on our stickers. So, big gain. Well, I told you it was a competitive comparison, and it would mean very little to claim to be the best if you didn't take on the top of the field. Well, we've done it, and I think when you really look closely, we really are the best.